It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 22nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. It's going to be a whole degree warmer than it was yesterday. High 21. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 14, and just a little bit warmer for Thursday. Sun and clouds, high 28. Now, we'll get above 30 come Friday. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 4 and clear in Valley Cottage up in Rockland County. It's 7 and clear in Kenilworth over in New Jersey. And it's 12 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. We got a lot to get to as we work our way up. 6 o'clock hour, Sid and friends in the morning. The whole entire nation feeling this Arctic air. Misery, of course, loves company. I'm already done with winter. I don't know how you feel about this, but every time I walk out into this, I'm like, okay, I can't move south quick enough. But now the South is being slammed by this historic snowstorm that's brought snow, ice, freezing rain, so you can't even escape there. New Orleans got snow for the first time yesterday in 15 years, and that city, well, they don't even have snow equipment.
We're not a snow city, so we don't have plows or salt spreaders.
Meanwhile, cold temps affecting millions of people in a whole bunch of states, again, that are just not used to this kind of thing. States of emergency declared. Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi all have snow today. The storm making travel treacherous. It started yesterday. They started closing down airports. They told people to stay home. Pipes started to freeze. In Houston, they closed the airport for a while. Yesterday, it told people to stay indoors.
This is a serious Arctic blast. It's dangerous. It's life-threatening.
And these, again, people not used to this type of thing. Correspondent Priscilla Thompson says southern and Gulf states being hit with this unusual storm.
Throughout the region, schools and businesses are closed. In Houston, all major airports shut down. Some airlines also stopping service in New Orleans, where snow is expected for the first time in more than 15 years. Parts of the Rockies, Northern Plains, and Upper Midwest are also stuck.
Okay, we're having issues with sound. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis warning Florida and North Florida, people there, to get ready for the winter storm that hit last night.
We are expecting snow in many parts of North Florida. The forecast now is 2 to 4 inches. It's possible you could have localized accumulation of up to 6 inches.
So this was places like Jacksonville. Now, if you've been to Jacksonville this time of year, it's normally, relatively warm anyway.
Ice is expected in North Florida, particularly in the northeastern part of Florida.
And while there are a lot of people who are transplants in Florida who sort of know how to drive through snow, a lot of people who grew up in Florida have never driven through snow.
We're not necessarily used to walking in a winter wonderland here in Florida. This is atypical weather for our region.
So we got all kinds of reports in this morning about how much is there. 5 to 12 inches in parts of northern Florida. Think about that for a second. A foot of snow in northern Florida. There's sections of northern Florida that have a foot of snow on the ground this morning. That is a record. They've never, ever seen that much snow. And these wacky weather conditions and these patterns, these trends, it's not just in the southern states. You've seen these wildfires out in Southern California. Some of those have spread. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass taking steps to shore up some of these burn areas because now it's going to rain and they're worried about mudslides out in Southern California.
I signed an executive order to expedite debris removal, slash regulations, preventing swift rebuilding, and establishing a framework to secure additional regulatory relief and resources.
But all those houses gone, the vegetation, the trees gone. They're worried about mudslides. And then the fires broke out about 45 miles north of San Diego yesterday. Santa Ana winds threatening the region once again. One of the captains of CAL FIRE in San Diego says the fires were first reported after midnight.
The largest of the fires is going to be the Lilac Fire. Still moderate rate of spread. Crews are going to continue to work throughout the early morning hours and into the day. And the cause of the fire is currently under investigation by CAL FIRE investigators.
And like in Los Angeles, the blaze prompted mandatory evacuations as they threatened homes, businesses in San Diego County. As of last night, those fires 0% contained. We've heard that before. And you've also heard before hundreds of private fire crews. We've heard about the wealthy can hire these fire crews to protect them's homes, structures. The firefighters are directly contracted with agencies as well as those who work for insurance companies. And then you have wealthy families who can hire these fire people as well, these firefighters who will protect homes.
Our engagement and relationships begin well before anything happens. We do an assessment that highlights and prioritizes what's needed for the property specifically.
So they come to your home before the fire comes, tells you what you need to do. That's Joe Torres, who's both a firefighter and CEO of this private firm. It's called All Risk Shield. These private crews arrive at homes or structures before the fire does, and they try to make the necessary changes to give it the best chance of survival. And someone was asking me about this earlier this week. What's today? Wednesday. So this must have been Monday. They were wondering what's being done with some of the pets that people had to race away from their homes. Maybe they couldn't find their pets. Their houses were on fire. What's going on? So we checked in Pasadena with the Humane Society there, and they told us they've taken in 800 animals since those fires began a little more than a week ago, and they'll start looking for their owners or new homes for these animals. Of course, so many people who've lost their homes, they can't necessarily take their pets back in. They're in hotel rooms, that kind of thing. They want to.
We've taken in over 800 animals since the fire started. We were seeing animals coming in with evidence of burns. Their paw pads were burned. They had singed fur.
Yeah, I hate hearing that. That's Kevin McManus with the Pasadena Humane Society. He says most of those animals came in with families who lost their homes, or there were just pets that were found walking around the fire area by firefighters or others after the blazes were put out.
The easiest and most direct way for us to help the animals is through a financial donation. It allows us to buy the specialty food that, a tortoise might need.
Yeah, like anywhere, people have all kinds of animals. And Bill Burr and Shane Gillis, they're going to host now a comedy event to raise funds for the Los Angeles wildfires.
The show will take place on January 27th, with proceeds going to the Wildfire Relief Fund. Tickets are on sale now from Live Nation. The show is just one of the many events popping up in L.A. to fundraise for those affected by the fires, including the TCL Chinese Theater with special showings and another concert scheduled for January 30th featuring stars including Lady Gaga, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks, and Billie Eilish. I'm Brian Shook.
WABC News Time 509. Let's go up to Vermont. A Border Patrol agent dead after being shot Monday during a traffic stop in Vermont right near the border with Canada. President Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, spoke about the incident.
My heart breaks. My 3.5 decades, I buried Border Patrol agents, I buried ICE agents, and it's a sad day for all of us. And so, God bless his family.
Yeah, it happened about 3:15 in the afternoon. A car with two men was stopped. Authorities say one of the suspects is also dead. A third person injured is in custody.
Northern border is not going to be underlooked by the Trump administration. We realize they're understaffed. We realize that the numbers are up 600%.
The FBI working with the Border Patrol and Vermont State Police to investigate this shooting. President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, says the northern border, as you heard there, is going to be a focus for them as well. And people are continuing to try to cross the southern border in places like Tijuana, but now they're being informed that they're not going to be able to cross.
Some migrants have been using the CBP One app to try and schedule initial asylum claims and then wait for a hearing in the United States. With the new executive orders from the president, the app is no longer in use, and those seeking asylum will have to wait in Mexico before their case is heard. The Union Tribune says 1 million people used the app in the last 2 years. I'm Jack Cronin.
WABC News Time 5:10. Pushback now to the President Trump's executive order that eliminates birthright citizenship. A coalition of 18 states, including New Jersey and New York, challenging President Trump's executive order. New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin says the move is unconstitutional.
The executive order renders many children born on American soil without citizenship, creating for the first time, a class of American-born children whose health and well-being are threatened by their own government.
Platkin says the 14th Amendment clearly states that the citizenship of children born in the U.S. does not depend on that of their parents, and that the country that has followed the basic rule, the U.S. has followed this basic rule for 150 years.
The executive order renders many children born on American soil without citizenship, creating for the first time a class of American-born children whose health and well-being are threatened by their own government and our American and New Jersey values that have been enshrined in the Constitution for 157 years, values that have been part of our nation's fabric for centuries. It's so that a president, Congress, the majority cannot simply change a right on a whim. This is a right that was codified in one of the most important amendments ever codified in our nation's nearly 2.5 century history.
This coalition is suing to invalidate the executive order, obtain a temporary restraining order to prevent it from taking effect. 512 out in Northern California, a new movement to oppose some of President Trump's plans starting in the South Bay area there. Local leaders gathering to stand together against what they call Trump's attacks on immigrants.
These policies strip away the dignity and humanity of those who seek safety and opportunity in our country.
Yeah, but of course, the vote on Election Day, and the president promised to close and seal the border. Of course, we'll see whether these deportation raids begin today. We were told they would begin in Chicago yesterday. 512. Meanwhile, down at the Texas borders, Texas state troopers say they're emboldened by the Trump administration taking office. More buoys have been added to that floating border wall, which is bobbing in the Rio Grande.
Having that type of deterrence will prevent any illegal border crossings between the ports of entry, but also, most importantly, will actually save lives.
Lieutenant Chris Olivares says the migrants in Mexico are not even getting in the water near where the buoys are floating anymore. Crossings, he say, are down to a complete trickle at this point.
We have seen a decrease of over 87% in illegal border crossing. The water buoys have been proven effective to deter illegal border crossings between the ports of entry.
And he says that's important because when it's cold, because the river is frigid, swimmers, of course, risk hypothermia and drowning. 513, former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio is expected to return home to Miami today as President Trump pardons the January 6 rioters. His mom, Zuni, says she's eternally grateful to the newly sworn-in commander-in-chief.
He was missing some paperwork last night. He was supposed to release last night, and he was not released. He is being released today, sometime during the day. He will arrive in Miami tomorrow, 3 p.m.
The 40-year-old former business owner has been held for the past 3 years without bond after being convicted of violently storming the Capitol in a bid to overturn the 2020 election. Zuni praises President Trump for signing this executive order that pardons her son and others.
As a mom, I couldn't be happier today. I was happy yesterday. We had faith this was going to happen, and it did. President Trump, promises made, promises kept.
Ontario says the conviction was the result of a political witch hunt that should have never happened.
Miscarrying of justice, weaponization of our DOJ and our FBI, which hopefully that will be over soon. That was a political trial.
Not all Republicans are happy with the pardon of the January 6 rioters. 2 Republican senators criticizing President Trump for them.
Alaska's Lisa Murkowski told reporters she's disappointed in Trump's move. Louisiana lawmaker Bill Cassidy said it's not right. People who assault police officers, if they do the crime, they should do the time. Both senators voted to impeach Trump during his 2021 Senate impeachment trial. I'm Brian Shook.
Yeah, both President Trump and now, I guess, former President Joe Biden went pardon crazy over the last 24 to 48 hours. We're going to get into that in a moment, all the people pardoned and some reaction to that. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Wednesday. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Wednesday. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We will start here with the NBA and an interborough bout between the Knicks and the Nets last night in Brooklyn. Karl Anthony Towns had 25 points and 16 rebounds. Jalen Brunson scored 8 points down the stretch and finished with 17 as the Knicks beat the Nets 99-95. OG Anunoby scored 20 points, and Precious Achiuwa had 11 points off the bench as the Knicks won their second straight game. D'Angelo Russell finished with 23 and 10, and Cam Johnson scored 16 for the Nets, who have lost 4 straight games in 9 of their last 10. Mikal Bridges had 10 points in his first game back in Brooklyn following the July 2024 trade. The Knicks improved to 8-0 when holding teams under 100 points this season. Quick turnaround for the Nets, who are right back out there tonight at home hosting the Phoenix Suns for a 7:30 p.m. tip. As for the Knicks, they're off until Saturday night when they're scheduled to welcome in the Sacramento Kings to the ice at the Garden. Igor Shesterkin made 20 saves. Alexis Lafreniere had a goal and an assist, and the Rangers were out of the Ottawa Senators 5-0. Kaliev, Rempe, Panarin, and Cooley also scored for the Rangers, who were 7-1-3 since January 2nd and have won 3 straight at home. The shutout was Shesterkin's third this season and the 18th of his career. The Rangers improved to 11-9-2 at home after struggling with 1 win in 6 home contests in December. Up next for the Blue Shirts, they'll host the Philadelphia Flyers tomorrow night. Looking ahead to local NHL action tonight, the Devils will be back at home to welcome in the Boston Bruins for a 7 p.m. puck drop. Finally, baseball immortality was awarded yesterday with the announcement of MLB's 2025 Hall of Fame class. Ichiro Suzuki became the first Japanese-born player elected to the Hall, falling 1 vote shy of unanimous selection, and he'll be joined in the class of 2025 by starting pitcher CC Sabathia and closer Billy Wagner. Perhaps one of the last true workhorse-type starters headed for Cooperstown. Sabathia prided himself on taking that ball. Never was that more evident than in 2008, when during his stint with Milwaukee frequently threw on 3 days rest while going 11-2 with a 1.65 ERA and helping the Brewers snap a 26-year postseason drought. That stretch run preceded Sabathia's first foray into free agency. He then signed with the Yankees and donned the pinstripes for his last 11 seasons, and of course winning that World Series title in 2009. He has said his Hall of Fame plaque will indeed feature a Yankees cap. There's really nothing like watching C go out there in his prime and dice up the opponent at the stadium. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19. It's been pardon mania. They're handing them out like candy. President Trump issuing pardons on his first day in office, while former President Biden issues 11th hour pardons on his way out. Trump pardoned roughly 1,500 people in connection to the January 6th riots here in Midtown. People reacting to that.
It's outrageous. It's crazy. I just feel that if you were part of that and you broke laws, you got to pay for it. I mean, like, God forbid I did something like that. There would be no pardon for me.
I think that most of the people were there for peaceful purposes, and not all of them, should be punished.
Meantime, of course, Biden preemptively pardoned his siblings, their spouses, Dr. Fauci, the January 6th committee members. He was handing them out like candy, too.
Donald Trump was quite transparent. He was going to enact revenge on anyone who crossed him. So I understand why President Biden did that. I know the optics of it aren't terrific, but given what Donald Trump was pledging to do, it's understandable.
Yeah, those preemptive pardons, of course, just in case something happens.
You can't be pardoned before you're charged. I feel like if there's a clear misuse of justice during your case or whatever, then somebody can step in and pardon you.
Shouldn't, the Supreme Court or anything judge that?
Yeah.
And say, hey, look, okay, you're doing this as president, but we as the government say yes or no.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. 5:21, Donald Trump's second inauguration on Monday drew fewer viewers than his first in 2017 and then fewer than former President Biden's in 2021. I'm sure he'll hate to hear that.
According to Nielsen, nearly 24.6 million people watched Trump become the 47th president. That was down from 33.7 million for Biden and 30.6 million for Trump's first inauguration. Some 17.4 million viewers this year were age 55 and older, and Fox News coverage of the event by far drew the most viewers. Second inaugurations typically do pull in lower ratings than the first. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris back in California surveying the Eaton fire burn zone in Altadena. She says she shares a home with her husband there and was in the mandatory evacuation zone. Her house survived, but she was talking to people there yesterday.
We are some of the lucky ones. Our home is still standing. We wanted to come out, and in particular to this extraordinary community, and just let people know that we see them and that they are cared for.
Harris spoke with fire victims and at a repair shop hosting a World Central Kitchen site. 522 confirmation hearings continued yesterday for two of President Trump's nominees, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Trump's pick for U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, facing questions from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
I appear before you today as a daughter, sister, wife, mother, Congresswoman, a patriotic upstate New Yorker, and a proud American.
Yes, she says she was excited to be there, excited to take on this job. There's no sign that she won't be confirmed.
And over the last decade, I have served on the House Armed Services Committee, the Intelligence Committee, the House Education and Workforce Committee, and I'm proud to be the longest-serving woman on both the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees.
Meanwhile, former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins was questioned by the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee as he tries to become the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Also, no problem, likely be confirmed very easily. Someone who was also confirmed very easily, Marco Rubio. He was sworn in as Secretary of State yesterday.
And this is true in government, but especially at the Department of State. Everything we do must be justified by the answer to one of three questions. Does it make us stronger? Does it make us safer? And does it make us more prosperous? If it doesn't do one of those three things, we will not do it.
The vote for Rubio was unanimous in the Senate. He'll become the first Latino in that role after being sworn in by J.D. Vance. Rubio says interests of the U.S. will always come first as Secretary of State.
It's a transformational moment. The United States, I think, is now, as President Trump pointed out last night, and I believe deeply, we are headed into a new era that I think will make the world a safer place.
Yeah, there's a funny moment. He then spoke in Spanish, and, this moment happened.
Y más bueno en la historia de toda la humanidad. Y es un gran honor y le doy las gracias al presidente Trump por esta oportunidad. I just said I saved a bunch of money by switching to Geico. That's what I said. So.
Yeah, it's funny. Of course, he was asked about the war in Ukraine, some other things, and here's what he had to say.
To end with hard, vibrant diplomacy that the U.S. seeks to engage in the hopes of bringing an end to this conflict that's sustainable in a way that assures the security of Ukraine and our partners in the region, but that stops the killing and the dying and the destruction that we've been seeing for quite a while now.
And he says that Russia should face more consequences for invading Ukraine.
It faces crippling sanctions from all over the world. Inflation continues to rise and is ravaging their economy. They've lost tens and tens of thousands of lives. They have not achieved their initial objective, which was taking all of Ukraine all the way to Kyiv. It's a complex conflict that's going on. There's no doubt about it. It's one that Russia started. Ukraine is suffering terribly from it. But it's going to be the official policy of the United States that the war has to end, and we're going to do everything possible to bring that about.
525. President Trump revoked John Bolton's Secret Service protection yesterday.
You take a job, you want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we?
Bolton was Trump's national security advisor, but was fired, you'll remember, back in 2019. In 2021, President Biden granted him Secret Service protection after a threat on his life from Iran. But yesterday, Trump called Bolton a warmonger and a stupid guy. Bolton says he learned of the news just hours after Trump's inauguration. Meanwhile, President Trump ordering all federal employees in diversity, equity, and inclusion roles to be placed on leave now.
The news comes after Trump signed an executive directive ending federal DEI programs, with offices being ordered to shut down. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the move a win for Americans, calling DEI programs a scourge on society. I'm Mark Mayfield.
526, overseas Israel's military chief of staff resigned over his failure to prevent the October 7th attack.
Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi said he's stepping down in March. He wrote in a letter to Israeli officials he's making the move as a result of my responsibility for the IDF's failure on October 7th, and at a time when the military has recorded exceptional achievements in restoring Israel's deterrence and strength. This is the most high-profile stepping down of an Israeli official linked to the October 7th attack. I'm Lisa Taylor.
The tax man cometh very soon. The IRS is also going to crack down on anyone who fails to report any added income from online sales now.
The IRS may know more about your side hustle. Anyone who earned more than $5,000 in 2024 selling tickets or other goods and services online should expect to get a 1099-K tax form. The Wall Street Journal reports online platforms like eBay and Etsy previously only had to send those forms to users who earn more than $20,000. The IRS warns whether you get a 1099-K or not, if you're in business, you need to report the income. I'm Monica Nelson.
This
This is what number one sounds like.
Who's getting the kickbacks on this contract?
That doesn't count.
I never understood the logic.
Wow.
I will always level with you.
77.
Everybody is talking about it.
WABC.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 534. Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 22nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. The high is only going to be 21. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 14. And then Thursday, mix of sun and clouds, warmer than it's been, but the high is still only going to be 28. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so thank you for listening to us. It's 4 and clear in Valley Cottage up in Rockland County. It's 7 and clear in Kenilworth over in New Jersey. And it's 12 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start the half hour right here in the city, where city officials bracing for the possibility of mass deportations under the new directive from President Trump. The city home to more than 400,000 illegal immigrants. Advocates say they know what to prepare for because they've experienced before under the president's first administration. Council member Alexa Avias is the chair of the Committee on Immigration in the City Council.
I think it may be a combination of many different kinds of raids. Under the first administration, a lot of early morning 4 a.m. raids in different neighborhoods. We saw a lot of workplace raids around the country.
The city has a set of sanctuary city laws that prevent city workers from cooperating with federal immigration enforcement, except when it comes to those who have been convicted of committing crimes. Here's Mayor Adams on that.
There's no restriction for the NYPD to coordinate with the various task forces around criminality. There's no restrictions. Nothing has changed there. We're going to continue to collaborate with all of our federal partners when it comes down to illegal behaviors.
During a recent city council meeting, they created an education campaign for undocumented immigrants. For example, they created pamphlets that notify immigrants of their rights and what to do if ICE knocks on their door. They're also hosting training sessions, reaching out to every city agency, urging them to follow the sanctuary city laws. In turn, each department apparently is taking its own action. The Department of Education apparently sending out an email this week to principals, educating them on the rights of students and how to support them if ICE shows up. Mayor Adams continuing to talk about this relationship, of course, that he has with President Trump. He was at the inauguration. He says he supports, of course, some of these deportations, especially when it comes to criminals who are here.
We need to secure our border. We need to make sure that we don't allow those with criminal intentions to come to our city and country. That's what the American people stated. And that is what we should be looking towards coordinating to make it happen.
Where the mayor says he will not help out President Trump is that with the migrants who he says are following the law, continuing to pursue what he calls the American dream.
Those who commit violent crimes in our city have violated their right to be in our city and in our country. And we're going to continue to collaborate with ICE around criminality. I'm not going to be warring with the president. I'm going to be working with the president. And that's my responsibility as the mayor.
WABC News Time 5:30. Our own Lou Rufino could tell you about what it was like to break down in the cold weather yesterday. I don't know if you have your headphones on, Lou, but tell me, you broke down on the BQE, correct, yesterday?
Right before the approach, yes.
And the engine wasn't working at all, right?
No, it just started to die, and I rolled to a stop. I got to the right as fast as possible, but I was still on the highway approach going to the BQE. So, AAA, which is a very great service, the service station that is in the area will get back to you and say, oh, we don't come up there. We can't get there.
Oh, that's nice to hear after you pay for the service.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you can rely on. At least you have something. But there's certain restrictions all over New York. Definitely. The highway system. The belt is one. I was coming off the belt onto the BQE, and there are the restrictions, and you have to call a specific service. Obviously, I know fellow drivers will probably relate and know. So I'm waiting for that. And then I finally called again to call this service, and they said, oh, no, we can't come up there either. We don't come. So it was a stretch of little highway that was between Belt and the BQE. It's a turn.
So this is 4:30 or so, right?
Right. That's
so, and it's about 7 degrees. You have no engine on. That means you have no heat. And I heard Joe, of course, talking about you should bring something with you in case like something this happens. And I don't have anything in my car, and I'm guessing you don't have anything in your car either.
No,
so you're sitting there freezing.
Oh no heat, no nothing. It's amazing how fast you will start to freeze up, and it's pretty scary, actually. And then when you're in a spot where you probably can't leave your car, and if you're waiting for service, you definitely can't leave your car. But after a while, you're thinking, what am I going to do? And then after close to 2 hours...
Oh, my God. So you were sitting there with it being 7 degrees in your car on the side of the road for 2 hours?
Oh, yeah. It ended up being 3.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then they say, try calling 911. So, I mean, I don't want to call. You call 911 and they're calm. They said, okay, a precinct is going to call you. We'll get right there. And you're waiting for them. So, but you're sitting and traffic is going by, and now you don't realize, you don't know when you're getting out of there. You just don't know. Finally, a couple of great police officers stopped in a van, said, get out of there, get in the van, warm up.
Wow, that's great.
They were very cool. One stopped before them and said, okay, I know where you are. I'll tell them, I'll call them. They're all plain clothes. So the second one in the van, these two guys came out. I forgot their names now, unfortunately. They were awesome. And they said, call this service right in front of me. I'll talk to them. Said, look, I got a guy here. He's stuck. You come. This is where he is. So they can describe exactly where you are to the company. And it was great. It was like, okay, I think I'm saved. And finally, in 10 minutes, while they were talking, a big flatbed came. He just came independently because he saw me from the higher part of the highway on the BQE, and he came all the way around and told me, now you have to pay him, of course.
Right, which I'm sure is no small sum of money.
No, over $100 definitely. Your AAA is supposed to reimburse you for that, and I think they will. But it's a procedure, man. It's like a real procedure. AAA does not guarantee you getting out of a situation like that. And in the cold, you just can't believe how scary it can be. And I can deal with the cold. Not like this. No way.
Yeah, well, so when Joe warns you should bring some sort of kit, he's absolutely 100% right.
Listen to him. Yeah. It's a good idea to have. I mean, I had nothing. I mean, my feet were just about gone.
Wow.
That's it.
Well, we missed you yesterday, and I'm glad it seems that you're okay now. So
I appreciate that. I missed everybody, too. I never thought I would appreciate coming into work so much, but I missed it. Right, oh, my God. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. 5:43, speaking of the cold weather, crews are working through the night to try to repair a water main break in Lyndhurst, New Jersey.
There's also a boil water advisory in place for all of the Bergen County Township until further notice. People there may see low water pressure, brown water, or both. The break happened around 4 p.m. Tuesday near Ridge and Valley Brook Roads. It's caused water problems for 6,000 buildings and some 25,000 people. Crews are hoping to restore service by Wednesday morning. The boil advisory could last until Thursday, depending on tests. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
While we're in New Jersey, the family members of fallen Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick are describing the sweeping pardons of the demonstrators that took over the U.S. Capitol on January 6 as a betrayal of decency. Officer Sicknick died a day after he was called to defend the Capitol after he was pepper sprayed during the attack. Now the same men and women involved in the battle, of course, getting this fresh start following President Trump's pardon of those convicted in connection with the January 6th Capitol riots.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon. Yes. Full pardon.
So some 1,500 who stormed the Capitol receiving clemency. The family of Brian Sicknick very upset about it. His brother Craig calling the move a betrayal of decency. He says the president is a poor excuse of a man. The governor of New Jersey, Senator Cory Booker, weighing in on the pardons yesterday.
To say that that's upsetting is an understatement. Their family member would be alive today. But the person who literally was seen on camera beating Brian Sicknick has just been pardoned by this president. That's unacceptable to me.
Yeah, some Republicans speaking out yesterday, including Congresswoman Maliotaka, saying not all of these people should have pardoned. They should have gone piece by piece, individual by individual. 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noel Maladen. We'll start with the NBA and an interborough bout between the Knicks and the Nets last night in Brooklyn. Karl Anthony Towns had 25 points and 16 rebounds. Jalen Brunson scored 8 points down the stretch and finished with 17 as the Knicks beat the Nets 99-95. OG Anunoby scored 20 points, and Precious Achiuwa had 11 points off the bench as the Knicks won their second straight game. D'Angelo Russell finished with 23 points and 10 assists, and Cam Johnson scored 16 for the Nets, who have lost 4 straight games and 9 of their last 10. Mikal Bridges had 10 points in his first game back in Brooklyn following the July 2024 trade. The Knicks improved to 8-0 when holding teams under 100 points this season. Quick turnaround for the Nets, who are right back out there tonight at home hosting the Phoenix Suns for a 7:30 tip. As for the Knicks, they're off until Saturday night when they're scheduled to welcome in the Sacramento Kings. To the ice at the Garden, Igor Shesterkin made 20 saves. Alexis Lafreniere had a goal and an assist, and the Rangers were out of the Ottawa Senators 5-0. Kaliev, Rempe, Panarin, and Cooley also scored for the Rangers, who were 7-1-3 since January 2nd and have won 3 straight at home. The shutout was Shesterkin's third this season and the 18th of his career. The Rangers improved to 11-9-2 at home after struggling with 1 win in 6 home contests in December. Up next for the Blue Shirts, they'll host the Philadelphia Flyers tomorrow night. Looking ahead to local NHL action tonight, the Devils will be back at home to welcome in the Boston Bruins for a 7 p.m. puck drop. Finally, baseball immortality was awarded yesterday with the announcement of MLB's 2025 Hall of Fame class. Ichiro Suzuki became the first Japanese-born player elected to the Hall, falling 1 vote shy of unanimous selection. The guy who voted against that one guy who voted against him should have to come out and identify himself.
You don't have to say who you are?
No, you don't have to say who you are.
It's all sports writers, right?
Yeah, the Baseball Writers Association of America. But the same thing happened with Jeter. One guy voted in. It's just like you're kind of just being a prick, no?
Yeah, how do you vote against Jeter?
And then he mentioned him at his Hall of Fame speech, too.
Yeah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he called him out.
I'd like to thank that writer who did not get me in. It was funny.
That's great.
I mean, there's no reason why Mariano Rivera, as great as he was, should be the only unanimous selection at this point. Ichiro Suzuki's got to be a unanimous selection. The guy had over 4,000 professional hits. Including Japan and America.
It's probably some guy who hates Japan or something like that.
Yeah, probably some racist.
Yes, let's blame it on a racist.
He had that one bad game anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
That'll always hurt you.
Exactly. But he was joined, Noam and Lou, by CC Sabathia and closer Billy Wagner. Sabathia, perhaps one of the last true workhorse-type starters headed for Cooperstown. He prided himself on taking that ball sometimes every third day, especially during that 2008 stint with Milwaukee. He did frequently throw on 3 days rest while going 11-2 with a 1.65 ERA and helping the Brewers snap a 26-year postseason drought. That was after those years he spent in Cleveland. That stretch run in Milwaukee preceded Sabathia's first foray into free agency. He signed, of course, then with the Yankees and down the pinstripes for his last 11 seasons, winning that World Series title in 2009. He has said his Hall of Fame plaque will indeed feature a Yankees cap. That is your sports. No, man, I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. New Jersey transit officials say they're still optimistic an engineer strike won't happen.
And those same officials point to a second report just issued from the Presidential Emergency Board declaring the agency's final offer as the most reasonable proposal in the ongoing labor negotiations. The union representing the engineers and NJ Transit are currently in the middle of a cooling off period after the union rejected the agency's latest offer. NJ Transit hopes that second report will lead to a settlement, as engineers have been working on a contract that expired in 2019. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
A dog that was dumped and left for dead in central New Jersey recovering, and the man police say who dumped him is behind bars.
It was 13 degrees in Old Bridge, New Jersey, Monday night and Tuesday morning. Scotty, an abandoned 2-year-old Bichon Frise, spent 11 hours in a cold dumpster outside the Glenwood apartment complex that night. Cameras caught a man dumping Scotty there. He's been arrested, identified only as a 26-year-old Old Bridge resident. He's been charged with animal neglect, abuse, and abandonment. The township's mayor says they've already gotten lots of calls from people looking to adopt Scotty. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
Just getting this in from the NYPD. A teenager survived a subway surfing incident last night. This was on East Gun Hill Road in Pelham Parkway. They say the teen sustained injuries to his head. What they say was a subway surfing incident. That's when, if you're not familiar, riders ride the top of trains and usually upload those videos to places like TikTok. The unnamed teen, thank God he's alive. He's taken to New York City Health and Hospitals, Jacoby Hospital, where he's being told at this hour that he's in stable condition. 3 men are going to stand trial beginning this morning for the murder of a man who was one of several who fell victim to a drug and robbery ring that stoked fear in the gay community. You might remember this. This was in May of 2022. Linda Clary, she's going to testify in this trial. One of the victims is her son, who was killed in this process.
They are children of God, just like I am. I pray for God to bless them.
Yeah, she's praying for the people who committed these crimes. In May of 2022, 33-year-old John Umberger went out alone for a night of fun in Hell's Kitchen. His body found 4 days later. His bank account had been depleted. His credit cards maxed out. A month earlier, Julio Ramirez was found dead in the back of a cab. His finances were also wiped out. Authorities believe both men were unknowingly slipped a deadly dose of fentanyl. Here's more from this mom who's going to testify this morning.
I do not think they set out to kill anybody. Their goal is to rob. But my problem is when you kill one person and you're still out doing it, and then you continue to do it, just like the night after my son's death. They were back at it again.
Yeah, well, she's way more understanding than I would be. Investigators report there were a string of other victims who fortunately survived. 4 of them are scheduled to testify today. Clary is now encouraging young New Yorkers to go out with friends and to stay together, especially when they're drinking at bars.
Guard, protect your drink, and protect one another. There was a pattern of victimizing gay men. That is just heartbreaking.
She has actually set up a family foundation in her son's name. 5:54, let's go out to Long Island. A small win in court yesterday for Nassau County's transgender sports ban, with more significant challenges probably still to come.
Nassau County State Supreme Court Justice Bruce Cozzens Tuesday rejected a push for a preliminary injunction to block the law while the case plays out in court. The New York Civil Liberties Union is suing on behalf of an adult roller derby team with at least one transgender member. The judge ruling no irreparable injury would be done to the team that would require an injunction. In his ruling, Cozzens said allowing transgender women to play on women's teams may present a danger to genetic women, given power differentials between the genders. That'll be at issue when the full case is heard. State Attorney General Letitia James is also challenging the law separately. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Let's go down to the Jersey Shore. Just this wild and sort of dangerous situation surfacing in one Jersey Shore town. This is Long Beach Island, the Barnegat Lighthouse State Park. There, someplace I've frequented with my kids often. Apparently what's happening is there's these holes opening up in the sand on the shore. And thankfully, nobody's been hurt. But if you were to fall into one of these things, you could be hurt and maybe even killed or even drowned.
How would Chris Christie get out? He'd fall in, that fat bastard, in New Jersey. You'd never see him again.
And he'd still be in that beach chair.
Yes.
Yeah. So here they were. Here's somebody warning people about this yesterday.
If you were to step right there, you'd go right through. This hole here, if you look down, that's 8 feet deep. This one, it's actually a cave. You could fall in here. You can be stuck in a sand collapse. You could be hypothermic from being in the water, or possibly you could even drown if you went in head first.
This is a really popular place to walk all seasons. I mean, especially in the summer, but in the off season, it's nice too because not a lot of people are there. But they're saying, hey, stay away or watch for these holes that might open up. They're trying to figure out what it's all about.
Either stay away altogether, or if you are here, just be really careful and stay away from the rocks.
We do have the responsibility to alert the public.
Yeah, so the area underwent a beach replenishment project, so they say that may have something to do with it. Workers say the section along the walkway was just filled in with sand on Friday. But again, these big holes are telling you if you are in that area, Barnegat Lighthouse State Park, maybe stay away until they figure out what the heck is going on.